What's up, guys? Ryan here. Another Think, Learn, and Be Vulnerable vlog. And today I'm going to talk about Final Fantasy VII, the Unreliable Protagonist, and its impact on myself, on storytelling, and on people in general. So, Final Fantasy VII, the original game, came out 25 years ago, I want to say. Amazing game. It was the first major game on the PlayStation 1. So this is going way back. PS5. I've got a PS5 now, so several generations of gaming systems. And it was awesome. It was in 3D. It was the first one to have a full open world kind of feel to it. It was the first game to have really deep, intricate characters. It was the first one to give you game choices, meaning the characters would say something and then you'd have a choice on how to respond. Rudimentary compared to some games now, but still really good. It was nice because it gave you a lot more agency, and it really made you fall in love and really attached to the characters. And it was easy to insert yourself into the protagonist, a guy named Cloud. Early on in the game, when they escape the initial city where they all meet, a place called Midgar, Cloud tells a story about how he left to join a company called Shinra and a subdivision in Shinra called Soldier. And later on, he came back to his hometown, Nibelheim, where him and another character, Tifa, where they both lived, and they were actually childhood friends. And so then eventually, you learn about Cloud's backstory and how he and Sephiroth fought and how Sephiroth was killed, but then he's still alive and he ends up being the big bad boss of the game. And Tifa's listening to the story and she's kind of like, okay, something's wrong here, but she doesn't really say anything. And then as the game progresses, you realize that more and more Cloud's story wasn't really true. And eventually we come to find out that other people, Sephiroth and the scientist guy Hojo, think that he is a Sephiroth clone, where he was basically injected with cells from Sephiroth's mother, and in turn is a replicant, basically. And he's a puppet, and he doesn't have any real emotions. And this bears fruit because he ends up giving Sephiroth this really powerful magic item, and Sephiroth eventually tries to destroy the world with it. Later on, we come to find out that Cloud actually is Cloud, actually did grow up in Nibelheim, and actually did know Tifa, but he had memories implanted from another person into his brain. So he has childhood experiences with Tifa and childhood experiences from Nibelheim. He has some experiences early on in Shinra, but he never actually made it into Soldier. So the point from when he actually goes to Nibelheim forward, and that's separated between 5 years from when that happened to when the game actually occurs. That 5-year span is all implanted memories. So, long story short, this was the first time in a video game, at least for myself, where the main character, the character that you attach to the most, that you self-identify as, isn't truthful, doesn't really know who they are. And it really made me think as a child and now, what do we identify as? How do we figure out who we really are? What actually defines us? And the cool part was, and this is the thing that I want people to take from this, is we are constantly writing our stories. We are constantly developing ourselves. We are ever changing, ever growing human beings. And And the stories of the past, the sins of the past do not have to stay on you. And they don't have to keep with you. And you don't have to feel like you have to hold on to everything, because you might be an unreliable protagonist too. There's a lot of things that I think I remember, and then I talk to other people and they're like, no, it wasn't exactly like that. I'm like, really? Oh, okay. Like, our memories are not perfect. You know, this has been proven in court a lot of times where people just don't remember things clearly. And it's tough. You know, it's tough to think that the memories that we have and the story of ourselves that we've been telling ourselves isn't exactly how we remember it, isn't totally true. And that can happen a lot, you know, especially when it comes to traumatic events like Cloud went through. You know, if you are a victim of child abuse or domestic abuse, a lot of times you just put that stuff away. And because you've been suppressing it for so long, you remember it differently. You try not to think about those things. And then you tell people, yeah, childhood was tough, but it's, you know, I don't really talk about it. And then your memories of it change. And that, you know, you may need to do that. You may need to have a coping mechanism to deal with incredibly tough experiences. And that's okay. You know, and I think that's the main thing, is that we may not always remember things exactly, but the feeling, the experience is always going to be with us. And being able to talk about those difficult things and being able to, like, let people know really how you're feeling. And even if you don't know how you're feeling, try to express it, trying to let it out, because if you keep it down and you keep it bottled up, it can fester and it can grow into something terrible, and it can make you hurt other people when you don't want to hurt them, but you don't really understand why you're doing it. So I really loved that game so much, and I just recently replayed it, and I had also played the remake, and it's incredible. Like, the places that they're taking this story and the whole idea of us not really knowing what's up with Cloud and what's up with the person who is us. It still hits. It's still very poignant to this day to always try to make sure that I'm being true to myself, that I'm being truthful with myself, and that I'm always saying, hey, is this really how it is? And do you really remember it correctly? And are you sugarcoating something? Are you, looking at it with rose-colored glasses? Or are you being, like, as straight up and truthful as you can be? And so I think learn to be vulnerable. I think we need to think about ourselves and think about how we perceive things, and make sure that we are perceiving things in the way they're supposed to be and the way that they are. And learn, well, let's learn to be vigilant. We need to learn to be accepting of reality as it is. And we need to make sure that we don't let our memories fade or warp or twist or change. Learning that vigilance and accepting the past and the present and the future as it is incredibly important. In terms of vulnerability, yeah, giving ourselves a break and letting ourselves know, you know what, maybe that's just how I had to deal with those things. It's okay to come up with defense mechanisms. And if one of them is remembering the past in a different way, that's okay. You will have to deal with it eventually, though. And to be truly vulnerable with ourselves and say, okay, you know what? I've used this as a defense mechanism long enough. I need to go to therapy. I need to really talk about these things. I really need to get my feelings out, because hopefully you're away from that experience now, but it's always going to be there, and you got to do the best you can to deal with it. All right, guys. Thank you so much. See y'all later.